clean, clear, wonderful view. And it's so nice for search and destroy, right? Because look, lots of times people want to see you shuffle. In real life, they have every reason to want to see you shuffle. That's part of the game, right? But in this particular effect, it's all about creating that illusion that those kings are moving down in the deck around that selection. And part of creating that illusion is by having the card be seen to go in the middle of the deck and stay in the middle of the deck. Okay? So that's called the nowhere pass. And you know, every single thing that we're talking about tonight, we could talk about for quite a bit more length of time. In my book, The Paper Engine, there's a lot of material on this. There's even a whole DVD on this where we talk about this one move and all kinds of different ways to do it for like 45 minutes. But I wanted to show you the mechanics of it and the structure of it and the misdirection of it so that we could talk about those 3 layers that we were discussing. All right? Any questions about the nowhere pass?
There is a very specific question that we have come in from one of our viewers here, who would love to know about the choice of tilt over the nowhere pass for search and destroy. Now, you did talk about how using the nowhere pass would be a lovely choice for search and destroy.
Well, I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. So, if I was just doing methods that I like to do at all times, it might not be as much fun of a lecture. I want to choose lessons or techniques that are really applicable to everyone and can help us sort of expand these themes so that everyone can see the combinations within the context of sleights that they are actually working on and developing and doing. So what the nice thing about tilt is it's very, very easy to do, and it allows you to get that same direct insertion effect that you get from the nowhere path, and it also allows me to start working this idea of the moment, so you can start understanding that it is okay to do magic in the shadow, to do sleight of hand in the shadow, and that you're supposed to. Because if you start getting into a YouTube culture with your magic, you're going to really be training yourself that trying to fool one of these cameras is what magic is about, which is cool, but it's going to leave you feeling totally unprepared in the real universe where you have to learn to work in the shadows. So what I love about tilt is that it really gives you a chance to start working in the shadow right now, to look over there, to let people look at the card, to experience the confidence of knowing what it's like to just not even be in danger of suspicion at any time. Because once you start to experience that and realize that that's not supposed to be the exception, that's supposed to be the rule, you're always supposed to feel that way, then you can start demanding it of every single technique you do and every single trick you do, so you're always safe. So from my perspective, you can start learning search and destroy right now, and you can start using tilt, and it's wonderful and it's great. And if you start working with that nowhere path for a couple weeks and you get it together and it's starting to feel good, you can plug it right in there. So it's like an upgrade, right? But the actual effect itself is complete with tilt, and you can start using it literally tomorrow that way. And that's what I suggest you do. Right? Because there's so many different, and this is what we were talking about before with these tricks improving, you know, there's no trick that's going to start being perfected until you start performing it. So in many cases, you need to find the best answer that will allow you to progress now, whereas we sit at home a lot of times and go, well, when something's perfect, then I'll be ready when it's perfect. When it's perfect. You could be waiting at home a long, long time if you're waiting till it's perfect. It's better to make a decision and then remake it a little bit later. That's a really great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And kind of a related follow-up, is this a good time to teach us the illusion control, or is that coming up some other time?
Well, that's an interesting point. Mm-hmm. It was interesting how you phrased that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I suppose it's as good a time as any?
Yeah, it seems like a good time, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know.
Now that we've already told them to watch for it.
You know how you are.
Here's this control you're not supposed to see. Look for it.
Yeah, later's a better time.
Okay, later.
Much, much later. You're getting very sleepy. Nice.
I'm not going to forget, though.
You're not going to forget?
They might forget, but I'm not going to forget.
I haven't even done this in a long time, so this could be a very bad idea. I'm going to take the ace and the 8, just like this. I'm going to leave them on top of the deck. And say stop.
Stop.
Look that card. Make sure you know what it is. Mm-hmm. That's the 5 of spades. Now keep your eye on it. Watch carefully. And one card comes to the top super cleanly. 5 of spades. So it's interesting that you brought this up, because I made a major advancement in this move literally last year, and haven't practiced it since, so I just did it, and it's a difference. So the illusion control appears in the paper engine and the Sleight album, the notes that you first did for me when I was literally not legal to drink coffee. It's not legal to drink coffee at that time. And this was the idea. I'm going to get into the explaining here. The idea of it was it was a kind of a frontal tilt mechanism. That's why they asked. You kids, was that Bueno? Who was that? Okay. So look at that. So we got this break here. And forgive me, I've never taught this before for a group, so we'll see what happens here. So this was the idea of the illusion control all those years ago, is I would come to here, you would really get that picture, and then I would move forward with just the top card. Pardon me, I'm trying to expose it. I would move forward with just the top card like so. And from here, you still had this illusion that the card was going cleanly into the center of the deck. And that was kind of the original idea. So what occurred to me, oh, that's awesome, our pizzas are here. So what I came up with just last year was a different idea, and the idea is that this whole time it should have been a bluff. This is like, 20 years in the making. This is a perfect example. Just one day, looking at it, oh, what happens was, and once again I'm exposed because in real life I would be here, but what's happening is now, instead of coming here and then having to push that card out, the whole thing is a bluff. I'm just going to leave it right there. So now there's literally nothing that has to happen except keeping that in position, like so. And that card goes cleanly into the center of the deck, like that, right? So one more time, just so everyone who wants to work with it can get it real clear. What's happening now, first of all, you've got to outjog that. And so it's another good situation where you got to control things. It's a good situation like if you don't have a table. These things are really justified if you don't have a table. In order to cover the old illusion control, I used to have to do it as a forward action to the table. And that's how I used to cover that hinky moment, which was a forward movement, right? And so this sort of takes care of that, because what's happening, just one more time, make sure it's clear, is you would riffle, you would stop, you would look at the card, and as I would come forward, I'm leaving it right here. So as I'm here, let me get in a position. As I'm here, I'm literally, it's been gone quite some time. Bam. Which I think is an improvement.
Aaron, that looks beautiful. How does that rear jogged half get squared?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not know. I'm going to endeavor.
It's pretty new. It is pretty new for you too.
It's new, and I haven't been doing it a lot. And what's happening is this. So I'm here. That happens. So it really is dangling. So that was my concern about doing it for camera for the first time when I hadn't been working with it, is I didn't know at what point you were going to get that. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was in my mind, thinking, oh, thanks for putting me on the spot, Daniel. And then at that point, so what's happening is this. As the first finger pushes in, my thumb does this. I yank back and get it. Good question, Dan. Thank you.
It's cool.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, it is an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I'm glad that, wow. So it's awesome that there are people all over the world who are familiar with this material that are prepared to, put me on the spot relentlessly tonight. That's called the Sexy Sadie Sandwich. Thank you all very much. I guess I'm going to move on. .org. Do something simple here. A king. Thank you. All right. Thing is, once the king shows up, you know that his buddies are never too far behind. Right? What's your name, sir?
Ben.
Hi, Ben.
How's it going?
Would you go ahead and hold out your finger and just tap those cards? Ah! No.